I still remember the day a simple letter in the mail turned my world upside down. It was a late afternoon, and the sun was casting long shadows across my kitchen table. I'd just come inside from tending my little herb garden, a daily routine that felt soothing and predictable, only to find an unexpected notice from the tax authorities. My heart sank as I read the words, realizing I owed far more than I'd budgeted for that year. In an instant, all my retirement dreams, my plans to travel with my grandchildren, and my sense of financial stability felt threatened. If you're over 70, you've probably faced something similar. Maybe a surprising tax bill, a change in the way your Social Security benefits were taxed, or confusion about medical deductions that should have been straightforward. It's frustrating. For many seniors, taxes become more complicated just when life is supposed to get simpler. The sinking feeling of seeing hard-earned dollars vanish into unexpected payments or missed deductions can make anyone want to throw in the towel. And the consequences of ignoring these pitfalls aren't just financial. They can rob you of the peace of mind you deserve in your golden years, leaving you uneasy about the future and worried that you won't have enough to maintain your lifestyle or leave a meaningful legacy for those you love. But it doesn't have to be this way. In this video, we'll talk about 6 specific tax strategies that saved me thousands of dollars after I turned 70. Money I've happily redirected into spoiling my grandchildren, taking short weekend getaways, and sometimes even trying new hobbies. By the end, I promise you'll not only see how to keep more of what you've worked so hard for, but also feel a renewed sense of hope and opportunity. One of these strategies in particular is something most seniors overlook, yet it can change your entire tax outlook practically overnight, so stick around until the end to catch that one. I've spent years delving into these issues, speaking with accountants, reading up on new regulations, and, most importantly, putting each strategy to the test in my own life. While I'm not a certified financial advisor, I've learned enough from specialists and real-world experience to share sound, practical advice that genuinely makes a difference. Before we jump in, I invite you to subscribe and turn on notifications if you haven't already. That way you won't miss any future videos that could help you navigate life after 70 more confidently. And if you end up finding the information here valuable, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 and let me know how I can improve. Your feedback helps me create better content for you. Let's explore the first strategy that can make a meaningful dent in your tax bill. I'll share a bold truth up front. It might just turn conventional retirement wisdom on its head. The first strategy is about rethinking how you manage your traditional IRA or 401k. We're often told to simply let our retirement accounts sit until we're forced to take required minimum distributions. But here's the shocking truth. Waiting until those forced distributions kick in can lead to massive tax hits down the road. Too many seniors believe it's best to postpone any withdrawals for as long as possible, figuring they'll enjoy more tax-deferred growth and pay taxes later. That mindset often spells trouble when RMDs suddenly balloon your taxable income. Consider Dennis, who is 74. He spent 3 decades saving diligently in a traditional 401k. Once he retired, he decided not to touch those funds until the government mandated it. For a few years, all seemed fine. Then he hit the age where his RMDs started, and suddenly, the size of those distributions tipped him into a higher tax bracket. He was shocked to discover that not only were his RMDs heavily taxed, but his increased income also caused more of his Social Security benefits to be taxed. On top of that, some of his deductions and credits were reduced because he now had a higher overall taxable income. It was a double or triple whammy, completely avoidable if he had taken a different approach. The surprising insight here is that making smaller, strategic withdrawals from your IRA or 401k before RMDs begin can actually reduce your overall tax burden. If you withdraw funds gradually in your early 70s, you might keep your income at a more manageable level once RMDs kick in. This strategy involves looking ahead, planning your annual income levels, and perhaps even consulting a financial advisor to fine-tune your withdrawal schedule. The emotional benefit? Peace of mind. Instead of being slammed with a large tax bill all at once, You even out the playing field, creating a predictable and less stressful tax obligation each year. Imagine how much freer you'll feel knowing you won't be caught off guard by an overwhelming RMD-driven tax bill. Now you might be thinking, but I want my money to keep growing tax-deferred for as long as possible. In reality, a gradual withdrawal plan can still let your account grow, just not in a way that hits you all at once with a massive tax payment. For many seniors, it's about finding a sweet spot. You withdraw enough to keep your tax bracket reasonable, but still leave a good portion invested. The key is striking the right balance so you're not forced to scramble when the government says, you must withdraw this much now. Picture your retirement nest egg as a garden. If you let it sit untended for too long, you might end up with an overgrowth of weeds, those higher taxes, choking out your harvest. But if you do a little pruning throughout the season, you'll enjoy consistent growth and a smoother harvest with fewer nasty surprises. This is about taking control of your future rather than being caught off guard by government mandates. The second strategy challenges the idea that tax credits aren't relevant to seniors. Most folks over 70 tend to believe they've aged out of significant tax breaks and assume that only younger people with families can benefit from credits or certain deductions. The reality is that overlooked credits and special deductions for older adults could potentially save you thousands, especially if you have specific medical or caregiving situations. Take Lois, age 77, who discovered a credit for caring for her disabled adult daughter. For years, Lois assumed she didn't qualify for any new breaks because she was just a retired grandma. But when she started spending more time researching what the tax code offered, she stumbled upon the credit for other dependents. This little-known gem reduced her tax bill by more than $1,000 in 1 year alone. The money she saved went straight into making her home more accessible, installing grab bars and a stair lift that not only helped her daughter, but also gave Lois herself greater peace of mind. The surprising truth here is that the tax code can feel overwhelming, but it's actually filled with credits and deductions designed to help people in various life situations, even those in their 70s and 80s. Perhaps you're helping your grandchildren with their education, or maybe you pay for a portion of your spouse's medical treatments that aren't fully covered by insurance. In these cases, you may qualify for credits or deductions you never even knew existed. Don't assume a credit automatically doesn't apply to you just because of your age. A quick check with a tax software program or a conversation with a tax specialist can reveal hidden benefits that directly apply to your life. In practical terms, set aside an afternoon to go through IRS publications or consult with a trusted professional to see if you qualify for often overlooked credits like the credit for other dependents, the saver's credit, if you're still contributing to retirement accounts, or even deductions related to healthcare expenses. Imagine how good it would feel to discover that you're one of many seniors who can keep more money in your pocket simply because you did a little digging. The emotional relief of finding that extra cushion can't be understated. It can mean the difference between living on a tight budget and having some discretionary funds to enjoy life's little pleasures. Before moving on, I want to check in with you. If you've already found these insights valuable, comment with the number 2 below so I know you're still here and engaged. And if you haven't subscribed yet, remember to hit that button and enable notifications. You don't want to miss out on future tips that could save you time, money, and stress. Let's look at the third strategy, which directly tackles a long-standing myth, that Roth conversions are only beneficial for young people. The common misconception is that once you're in your 70s, it's too late to benefit from converting a traditional IRA or 401k to a Roth. After all, you might think the timeline to recoup those taxes you'd pay during conversion is simply too short. But that assumption often ignores how a Roth can safeguard you from future tax hikes and possibly provide a legacy advantage for your heirs. Meet James, who's 72. He spent most of his life working as a pharmacist and retired comfortably, but he noticed his tax bracket was creeping up every year as his portfolio grew. Worried about future tax rate increases, especially given how uncertain policies can be, James decided to convert a portion of his traditional IRA to a Roth over several years. Yes, he took an upfront tax hit on those conversions, but he did it in carefully measured amounts so he wouldn't jump too high in brackets. The payoff? He now has a solid portion of his retirement funds sitting in a Roth, where future growth and qualified withdrawals remain tax-free. The surprising insight is that even if you're in your 70s, a partial Roth conversion could protect you from ballooning RMDs on your traditional accounts. You'll owe taxes on the converted amount now, but afterwards the funds in your Roth won't be subject to RMDs, easing future tax burdens. It's especially compelling if you expect tax rates to climb or if you plan to leave money behind for your children or grandchildren. A Roth can be inherited tax-free under current rules, potentially sparing your loved ones from a hefty tax bill down the line. From a practical standpoint, if you're considering a Roth conversion, the best approach is to look at your tax bracket year by year. Decide how much you can convert without tipping yourself into a painfully high bracket. You might work with a tax pro or financial advisor to map out a multi-year plan. If done wisely, these conversions can bring peace of mind, knowing you have a portion of your retirement nest egg in a shelter that's off limits to future taxes. On an emotional level, the benefit is feeling secure about your legacy. Many seniors worry that taxes will eat away at what they can pass on. With a Roth, you're essentially prepaying those taxes so your heirs don't have to. And if you plan to use the money yourself, you'll still be able to tap into it tax-free once you meet the holding requirements. Imagine the freedom of not having to second-guess every distribution, wondering how much the IRS will take. Instead, you can focus on enjoying your retirement to the fullest, perhaps gifting experiences to your grandchildren or investing in passions you never had time for before. Now let's move on to the fourth strategy, which involves optimizing your filing status and personal exemptions in ways most people overlook. Many seniors file their taxes the same way year after year, either single or married filing jointly, without realizing that life changes like the death of a spouse, a new marriage, or becoming a widower can affect how you file and how many credits or deductions you're eligible for. The misconception is that once you've chosen a filing status, that's simply your category forever. Claire, age 75, lost her husband a few years ago. Heartbroken and overwhelmed, she continued to file single out of habit, not realizing she qualified for a special qualifying widower status for up to 2 years after her spouse's death. This status could have provided her with a higher standard deduction and more favorable tax brackets, but she never knew. Only after she decided to check in with a local tax clinic did she discover she'd been missing out on hundreds of dollars in potential tax savings. Though she was past the deadline to reclaim some of that money, she adjusted her filing going forward and saved significantly the next year. The surprising insight is that filing statuses can be more flexible than you might think. Sometimes married filing separately can even be beneficial if one spouse has significant medical deductions that might get phased out at higher incomes. Or maybe you can claim a dependent grandchild if you're providing the bulk of their support. These nuances aren't straightforward, but ignoring them can cost you real money. The practical step is to revisit your filing status each year, especially if you've undergone a major life event. Have a checklist. Did you lose a spouse, get married, or start supporting a new dependent? Each situation could change your eligibility for certain credits and deductions. Even a shift in living arrangements, like inviting a parent to move in, can open up new avenues. The emotional payoff? Instead of feeling trapped by life's changes, you'll feel empowered. Each shift in your personal situation might unlock a tax advantage you didn't know existed, providing a sense of hope that even in life's toughest transitions, there are still ways to find financial relief. If you're still here and finding these insights helpful, drop the number 4 in the comments. By letting me know you're following along, you're also committing to exploring these strategies thoroughly. Remember to subscribe if you haven't yet, so you don't miss future videos where we dig even deeper into ways seniors can optimize their retirement years. The fifth strategy involves leveraging bunching deductions, which is a tactic that remains criminally underused among seniors. Conventional wisdom says you should simply record expenses as they come. But the truth is, if your itemized deductions hover near the standard deduction threshold, timing those expenses strategically can make a world of difference in how much you can write off in a single year. Margaret, who is 78, discovered this approach when her physician recommended a series of costly dental procedures. Instead of spacing them out across multiple calendar years, She condensed as many as possible into a single tax year. She also donated to her favorite charities in that same time frame. Because she bunched her medical and charitable expenses, her total deductions for that year climbed significantly above the standard deduction. The next year, she took the standard deduction since her medical and charitable expenses dropped. Over the span of 2 years, she saved hundreds of dollars more than if she had simply dispersed these expenses evenly. The surprising truth is that some expenses are within your control to schedule, like elective medical procedures, big charitable donations, or even property tax payments if you can choose to pay them early or postpone them slightly. By grouping these expenses into 1 year, you might surpass the standard deduction threshold and gain a bigger tax benefit. Then in the next year, you revert to using the standard deduction. The net effect over 2 years can be substantially better than consistently taking the standard deduction or itemizing every single year. Practical advice here is straightforward. Look at your budget for medical expenses, charitable contributions, and any other itemizable costs. Determine which ones can be moved around within a reasonable time frame. Keep track of deadlines, especially for property taxes and insurance premiums, since paying them a month earlier or later can shift their tax year. It's a bit of a puzzle, but once you see how these pieces can fit together, it feels like unlocking a secret code that was hiding in plain sight. Emotionally, you'll love the sense of control this strategy gives you. Rather than feeling passive about your deductions, you become an active participant in shaping your financial destiny. It's a powerful reminder that even in your 70s or beyond, you hold the reins of your financial life. That sense of empowerment can bring relief and optimism, ensuring that you're doing everything in your power to retain as much of your hard-earned money as possible. Now for the 6th strategy, a big one that many seniors neglect, let's talk about monitoring how your Social Security benefits interact with other income streams. Too often, people assume that the way Social Security is taxed is fixed and unchangeable. But when you combine Social Security with distributions from pensions, IRAs, or side income, you might inadvertently push yourself into a bracket where up to 85% of your benefits become taxable. The misconception is that Social Security is always tax-free or always taxed the same way for everyone. Consider Harold, 73, who decided to take a part-time job at his local library. He was thrilled to have some extra spending money, but he quickly discovered that this additional income pushed a larger portion of his Social Security into the taxable range. Between that and his IRA distributions, his overall tax obligation shot up. He actually found himself with less disposable income than before he started working. The problem wasn't the job. It was the lack of planning around how his extra earnings would affect the taxability of his Social Security benefits. The surprising insight is that by carefully managing when and how you take distributions from retirement accounts and how much extra income you generate, you can keep your taxable income below critical thresholds. Maybe you decide to withdraw slightly less in 1 year and more in another, balancing out your overall tax load. Or you defer certain side gigs until after you hit a particular age or tax bracket break. It might sound complicated, but even a simple spreadsheet or budgeting software can help you see how close you are to the thresholds that determine Social Security taxation. From a practical standpoint, look at your total projected income for the year. Then identify the danger zones where adding an extra few $1,000s could push more of your Social Security into the taxable column. If you're near that boundary, think about whether you can shift some income to a different year or leverage a Roth distribution instead, which generally won't increase your adjusted gross income. It's about being intentional. The emotional reward is a sense of mastery over your finances, rather than feeling blindsided by the tax code. And the hope is that you'll maximize the money you do take home, so you can spend it on experiences, give thoughtful gifts to loved ones, or simply build a little more financial cushion for unexpected emergencies. If you've made it this far, please leave the number 6 in the comments so I know you're committed to learning. Your engagement keeps me motivated to share more insights that could enrich your life in retirement. And if you've been enjoying this, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Each new subscriber helps our community grow, and it's the best way to ensure you get notified when there's new content. To pull all these ideas together Imagine sitting down at your kitchen table, just like I did when I first realized something needed to change, and laying out your new tax plan. You see 6 clear strategies: managing when and how you withdraw from your IRAs or 401ks, seeking out all the credits you might qualify for, considering partial Roth conversions, optimizing your filing status, bunching your deductions, and carefully balancing income streams to protect your Social Security benefits. Suddenly, what once felt like a hopeless maze now looks like a map with a clear path forward. You can practically feel the anxiety lift off your shoulders. It's critical to start soon. The tax code, while complicated, also offers numerous opportunities for those willing to look a little deeper, or simply experiment with new approaches. Think about it this way. Every day that passes without a plan could be costing you money, especially if you're already near the thresholds that trigger higher taxes on your Social Security or push you into the next bracket. By taking even one of these strategies to heart and implementing it, you stand to save a significant amount, potentially in the thousands. Just like I did. There's real urgency here. Tax regulations can change, and the older we get, the more we want our finances to be stable, predictable, and under our control. As you envision putting these strategies into action, picture yourself in your unique situation. Maybe you're a widower who discovered you can still claim a more favorable filing status. Or perhaps you're someone supporting a disabled grandson and just realized there's a credit for that. See yourself at peace in your favorite armchair, sipping a comforting cup of tea while reading a newspaper, knowing you've secured these benefits and aren't leaving money on the table. Feel the relief wash over you as you imagine a lighter financial load, a bit more room in your monthly budget, and the possibility of treating yourself to simple joys, like a spontaneous lunch with friends or a gift for your great-grandchild. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Which of these 6 strategies resonated with you the most? Drop a comment below and share one action step you're planning to take. Your experience could inspire someone else who's unsure of where to begin, and reading everyone's comments motivates me to keep making videos that matter. If you found value in this video, please remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with friends who could use a helping hand navigating their taxes. You never know who might be feeling overwhelmed but too shy to ask for advice. Above all, remember that you hold the power to change your financial story no matter your age. A surprising twist in your tax strategy can lead to thousands of dollars saved, opening the door to new opportunities and adventures in your golden years. You've come this far in life. Now is the time to harness the experience, wisdom, and resources at your disposal to create the comfortable and secure retirement you deserve. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to being part of your journey in the next video.